In this theme park behind me, I've been building different themed lands from different time periods that I've been calling Around the World Adventure Time Hunt. In today's video, I'm going to start my Wild West themed area inside of this theme park. So let's get into today's episode. So hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'll be building a Wild West, or starting to build a Wild West themed area, which I'll be taking inspiration from the Knott's Berry Farm themed land. I'll also be building something similar to the Calico Mine Train by using the powered rail coaster, as you can see here. I'll also be building a concept coaster from a concept video of a coaster we could be getting in 2026. But stick around to the very end, because I'll be explaining at the very end of this video what that is. However, let's start with building this Wild West area, by starting with placing the layout for the town, and I started building the buildings. Now initially when I started building the town, I started building it on one side of this themed area, and created an L-shaped layout. Now initially, when I started building the buildings, you can see I had no idea what I was doing, because I started building them to look more like 60 feet tall. I mean, you can tell here by this massive pause that I really didn't know what I was doing, because I did this a little while ago, so I don't remember directly, but I believe I was looking at concept art or concept images to see what a Wild West area looks like. And now you can see I'm deleting everything and starting over. Which, as you can see here, as I'm deleting everything and starting over with the Wild West area, I decided it will actually look cooler if I built the town on either side of this pathway. And that's why I decided to do here by deleting everything that you see here, including all the buildings, and then as well as changing the path as well. Which, when I started building this themed land, I decided to go with the most detailed things that I built inside of Theme Park Tycoon 2. And as you saw earlier, I definitely did something very detailed. No, I definitely did not. Okay, I'm just saying random stuff now. I'm not sure what to say or how to explain what I'm doing here, because I'm working on rocks, which is the most boring thing you can do inside of Theme Park Tycoon 2, in my opinion. Okay, now we're getting into something a little more interesting, which is building the new outline for my Wild West themed area. Okay, for the second outline, after deleting the first horrendous outline, I decided to do multiple tiers, where you go up this hill and there's 4 buildings on the top of this hill before going back down, and in the back of these buildings there'll be the hotel. But I'm not sure if I'm really doing a good job explaining it. I guess you have to continue watching to see what I mean, which I am doing now. As you can see, when I was talking about on top of this hill, I mean alongside this hill. As you walk up, there'll be 2 buildings on either side of this hill. 2 of these buildings, well, one will be a store while the other will be the bank. On the opposite end, I decided to do 2 random buildings because I had no idea what to actually place there. However, eventually I decided to do a bar in one of those buildings, or I guess you can call it the saloon, which is what it's called in the Wild West area. Okay, as I'm building the buildings, I just want to mention that I built all the interiors off screen. This is because as I was building the interiors, it looked like you're in a blender the entire time because of how small the space was to record. Which, as you can see, now moving back to the opposite end, I'm working on this store and bank and just filling out the back. Which, as you can see, for this section of the Wild West area, I'm finishing the 4th and final outline for the buildings that will be going here. But let me quickly finish the outline, and then I'll get back to you and explain what I'll be doing next for these buildings for this Wild West area. Okay, with the outlines now all complete for this section, I'm now working on the exterior work for these buildings. Starting with this building. For this building, I decided to leave it empty, other than it does have the space for the interior. However, I decided to leave it empty and do bathrooms for this building instead. And for this building, as you can see, I'm placing some doors here and just adding a lot of the trim work and stuff on this building just to make it look more like a Wild West style building. As you can see here, I'm adding the door frames for this door, and now working on where eventually the signs will go. Okay, now I'm just talking nonsense. Let me quickly finish this building, and then I'll get back to you and explain what I'll be doing for the next building. Now, as you just saw, I painted most of these buildings, and I'm now working on the 4th building here, and placing some of the roofs down for this building. Also, once again, I decided to build all the interiors off screen. This is because originally when I was working on the interiors and tried to record it, it made it look like you're in a blender the entire time. Also, to add to that, I was using blueprints from an old western area that I built inside of Theme Park Tycoon 2, and just reusing it for this park. And the whole time I was placing the interiors down, I was walking around like a wild banshee trying to place all the interiors in. So I decided to build it all off screen because of that reason. Now I am officially placing the roofs down for these buildings, but the process is pretty much the same throughout for every one of these buildings, other than a little different for each building. So I'm just gonna cut to the point where I'm working on the windows, which I feel is a lot more interesting than what I'm doing here. So let's get to that point. Okay, I finished the outline to the buildings. Now, as you can see here, I have the windows, which I haven't put on the buildings yet. Now, for the windows, I built 4 different types, which also include a window with the lights on and the windows with the lights off. Now, ignoring the building in the back, which may or may not be destroyed at this point, let's move on to placing the windows on these buildings, starting with the bank. Now, as you can see with the bank, I decided to add more fences to the 2nd floor where the balcony is, and you may also notice that the windows are too big. Now, annoyingly, what I found out as I was building the bank is the windows that had the lights on were massive in scales, as well as the one with the lights off. However, what was annoying about the ones with the lights on is I had to ungroup it every single one of those lighted windows to be able to fix them, because they won't scale down otherwise because of the lights that I put on the back. Now moving on to the 2nd building, which as you can see here, I'm using these circular windows, and once again, these windows were proportionally too big. Now, as you can see here, for this building, I decided to place the door here on this facade building, and I just decided to use the same windows that I placed on this building, just changing the colors to make it look like a door, and adding a door. Now, for this building, I decided to add more lighted windows to this building. However, one of the annoying things for this building is because this window is so much more complex, it was so difficult to ungroup and rebuild this window, since of how complex this window was. Which, as you can see here, I'm painstakingly making the glass primitives smaller on this window. Which also, on a side note, as I was building these buildings, or placing these windows down, I forgot to regroup all these windows, so I had to rebuild it multiple times every single time I wanted to place a lighted window down. And definitely there was a huge audible sigh of annoyance when I was doing it. And I explained earlier, but I'm now working on the door for this building, which as you can see, that is what I'm doing here. And now we're moving on to the 4th and final building for this section, minus the hotel. Now for the 4th and final building, which as you can see here, I decided to do 2 windows as the 2nd floor at the very top. Now, it's the 4th and final building because the 3rd building, which is the storefront building, I decided to build off screen. And now for the hotel for this area, or this section of the Wild West area. And as you saw earlier as well, I decided to add a 3rd floor to that building that I was originally working on. Now, moving on to the hotel though, for the hotel I decided to add a balcony and kind of base it off of a building that I saw in Old Town San Diego. And for the interior, once again, I decided to build off screen, and for this interior, I actually decided to go all out and actually build working rooms, which you'll see in the final reveal at the end of this video. Now, as I'm building the balcony and the rest of this building, I kind of want to talk about the history that I found with this building and why I decided to choose this building, especially taking inspiration from the San Diego building. Now, this is a type of building you can find in many movies. However, I decided to take inspiration from the San Diego hotel because of its rich history. For example, this building was actually, the one in San Diego was founded in 1827, and I thought it was just interesting that it was the oldest building, or one of the oldest buildings in San Diego County. And I also noticed that it's also a haunted place. Not that I like haunted places, but I just thought it was an interesting building, and that's why I decided to build it in my park. Especially, it is the type of hotel that you find in most movies or Western movies. And if anybody's interested in this building history, I'll put a link in the description below, because I didn't know that this building had this much history until I looked it up today. And the hotel that I'm talking about is the Cosmopolitan Hotel and Restaurant in Old Town, San Diego. But anyway, that's my inspiration and why I decided to build that hotel building. From here, I decided to build the coaster for this themed area. And for this coaster, I decided to use a 2026 concept video that was made by Zamperla for a coaster called the Double Heart. And for this video, it looks like it could be a coaster we could be getting in 2026. But anyway, I can't really show much in this video because I'm not sure if I'm going to get copyrighted or not. So to stay on the safe side, I'm not going to really post anything in this video. But if you're interested, go check out the Double Heart coaster on YouTube. So I also want to mention that when I was recording this video, or the part of this video for this coaster, I lost all the footage because it was on an old video editor and it decided to delete everything. So from here on out, I'm just working on the coaster supports as well as a lot of other details for this coaster, especially the rocks around the queue. Now, I'm going to also have to cut it short today since, well, I'll explain why in a little bit. So for this coaster, I'm not sure what to name it yet. However, I guess you can put some name suggestions down in the comments. Now for this coaster, I decided to add some wooden structures over the queue line area, and as you can see here, that is what I'm doing to make it look more supported. I'm also adding more rocks around the queue line just to finish up this coaster to make it look nicer, and there's no gaps in between the queue line and stuff like that as well. At this point though, I'm still working on the second bridge element that I added to this coaster, or wooden support. Now, as I'm working on this coaster, I'm afraid that is really all I can show you guys, because as I'm working on the supports for this coaster, I have a ton of spoilers of another build that I'm working on for another ride that I'll be posting in future episodes. So I'll see you in the next video. For now, enjoy this very cool POV of everything that I built in the town so far.